invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, please bless our elected officials. Grant them the wisdom to know and the courage to do what is right for all citizens. Amen.
Amen. Roll call.
Nichol?
Here.
Archie?
Here.
Getzinger?
Here.
Joe?
Here.
Wyatt here.
This public hearing is the Armada Township Utility Task Vehicle Ordinance R 2025-01. Welcome Armada Township Board of Trustees public hearing. We appreciate your taking the time to present your opinion. Everyone will be given an opportunity to speak. In order for us to have an efficient hearing, we ask you to abide by the following rules. Wait for the chair to acknowledge you before speaking. Give us your comments, opinions, and questions on the issue being discussed. To ensure everyone has time to speak and we can address other items on tonight's agenda, we request that you limit the time to 5 minutes. Request a motion to open the hearing.
Motion to open the hearing.
I'll second that. At 7:02.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Actually, Christine, am I supposed to take a roll call on that one, or that doesn't matter?
Any public comments?
So does everybody know what this public hearing is for? It's for the Armada Township Utility Task Vehicle Ordinance. Chris did say it, the supervisor did say it, but just so that everybody is aware.
Hi, Joe Shear, 20567 Armada Ridge. Very much in support of it. I just had one question, or clarification rather. It talks about roads being closed. So for obtaining fuel for people that are driving around, the fuel stations are on paved roads. So is that prohibited from that? So if they wanted to drive to get fuel?
I spoke with the police chief, and his police chief's specific words were, anytime they came into town to get gas or solicit the businesses, they were gonna turn a blind eye. He was further calling their attorney to adopt something like that, because Richmond has it,
Yep.
New Haven has it, so they are looking for, they do absolutely see the benefit to the village.
Perfect. Thank you. That's my point.
Joe, do you mind signing the
Oh,
sign
sure.
sheet there, please? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
I have an email to read.
Okay.
This is from Alan and Lynn Getzinger. Regarding the proposed ordinance making UTVs legal on Armada Township roads. I'm against this proposal. I appreciate the township for the quiet country atmosphere and would like to keep it that way as long as possible. Residents use our roads for walking, bicycling, walking dogs, and children, etc. There are folks who use golf carts to easily commute from here to there, slow and quiet. No ordinance necessary for that. Today, these UTVs are using our roads to drive fast and loud. Intersections on the dirt roads are torn up. There seems to be little regard or respect for the residents who live here. Our roads are being used as racetracks. Allowing these vehicles will attract people from other communities to come to Armada to use and abuse our roads. Will the UTV have an identification displayed, like a license plate? How will this ordinance be enforced? Please consider the many residents who will be affected by expanding our number of UTVs in our country environment. Thank you, Township residents, Al and Lynn Getzinger.
To address one of those, I know there will not be licenses or any identification required. My understanding those golf carts are still, without this ordinance, are still illegal.
That's correct,
Okay, so even with, right now they are illegal. They're not okay, okay.
right.
Any other public comments on the UTV ordinance? Any other public comments? Hearing none?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll support that.
At 7:05.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to open the regular meeting?
See, all you have to do is call the
Okay,
meeting.
meeting
to
order,
so-
because we already, okay. Approval of the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the May 8th, regular meeting.
I'll support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is set and amend agenda.
I'd like to amend the agenda, add 9H Frontier Farms Market rezoning, 9I Romeo Rabbit Rescue Special Land Use, 9J Senior Director Retirement, 9K Committee for Senior Director Replacement, and to remove 9F Board of Review alternate member.
Do we have to add 7A and B?
7A and B, yes. 7A and 7B. 7A is...
Armada Fire
7A
Station.
under correspondence and information would be Armada Fire Station upgrades, fiscal year 26 agriculture appropriation submission, and 7B Blake's Orchard tax appeal, attorney fees reimbursed to township.
What was I again, please?
Romeo Rabbit Rescue, special land use.
I'll make a motion to support as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Public comments.
Do I need to put, I don't need for public comments,
Yes.
for this evening?
Please.
Good afternoon, Marcia Hollins, 20120 Armada Ridge Road. I don't understand why we had prayer at the beginning of the public hearing. This wasn't on the agenda to have prayer. This does not reflect my religious views or my belief, but why did we have prayer? I don't understand. This is something new. I've been coming to meetings. Why was prayer given and it's not on the agenda?
It was adopted in the new policies and procedures.
Actually, Marcia, it's on the regular meeting agenda. It was just done.
This is the regular meeting agenda that I have?
Yeah, there, you've got the Board of Trustees agenda where it says public hearing. And then the second page, page 2, is the regular meeting.
Yeah?
You have to call that to order, just call that to order, but that's where we should have done the invocation right there. So-
Oh, it says call to order and the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
Yes.
So the invocation was the prayer. Thank you.
Yep,
So, is this going to continue?
Yes.
Is-
yes, yes.
So all meetings you will have a prayer
There's an invocation.
to a Christian God? To God that you said, a Christian God?
Well, those of us who are Christian will be praying to our God. If you have a different being then you can pray to that being.
Thank you.
Chief, if I may, Supervisor, if I may, just Marcia, to add to that, we did have at our policy and procedure, we had, I think we had two meetings about that prior, and we talked about it at extent.
You mean policy meetings?
Policy meetings, yep, that we went through that, and it was open to everybody there, and I think we all had a pretty good stance on where we wanted to be with that, and had many of options to discuss it, not only with the board, but with the community, and this is what we came up with.
Any other public comments? Any other public comments? Okay. Move on to bills.
I'll make a motion to approve the bills as presented.
I'll second that.
Any questions? Nicole?
Yes.
Swank, yes. Joe?
Yes.
Getzinger?
Yes.
Archie?
Yes. Reports. Motion to accept them.
Was
Have
the
Chief
chief
come in
gonna,
after.
was the chief gonna,
Yeah.
you
I
have
was just
anything to say,
gonna-
Joe?
Oh, he
Yeah,
does.
I'll get it first.
Gotta let you know what we've been up to.
You guys been busy.
We have been. So this past month, the Armada Fire Department responded to 65 requests for service. These calls consisted of 49 EMS activations, 2 motor vehicle accidents, 2 mutual aid fires, and a variety of other service calls. Additionally, we do continue to install smoke and carbon monoxide detectors free of charge to our residents, and we will continue this service for the foreseeable future. I'd like to remind those in the community to take advantage of this program.
simply call or stop by the fire station. The on-staff members will schedule a date and time that's convenient for you. We'll come out, do a safety evaluation, and update your equipment if needed, free of charge. So lastly, you may have seen on the department Facebook page that 3 of our senior firefighters just returned from a 4-day company officer live fire training course in Indiana, where they learned firsthand effective incident size-up, crew management, and decision-making under actual fire conditions. This program is offered once per year and is limited to 48 participants from the entire United States. We were grateful that Armada was able to secure 3 of these spots and train with fellow firefighters from as far away as Alaska. This is another step in preparing our members for leadership roles with both our current staff and for future generations of firefighters. Programs such as this help ensure that long after we here today have moved on, the Armada Fire Department will not only continue to exist, but will grow and prosper along with this community and deliver the professional cutting-edge services that our residents deserve. Thank you to firefighter paramedics Colin Minnie, Brandon Heath, and Joe Pellerito for taking time away from their families to attend this program and representing Armada in such a positive light. This concludes the report for...
But what did you get? That doesn't conclude your report. What did you just get?
Well, we're not doing the grand unveiling yet.
Okay,
So-
sorry. Shame on
We
me.
understand there's 2 new fathers, though.
There are. 2 of our firefighters had children recently. One of them, firefighter Joe Pellerito, whose wife is so wonderful. Their child was 5 days old when she sent him down to Indiana
Oh, my goodness.
for this week, so she's very, very understanding. The other one, Captain Kuhn, he had a little boy also. So the
Nice.
department's growing.
Yeah. Leaps and bounds.
Yep.
Very
So they're
cool.
all doing well.
Very
But
cool.
probably next month, once the vehicle is upfitted, we will do a presentation and also put it on social media and thank the generous donors.
Very good. Thank
So
you.
stay tuned. Congratulations.
Yes,
Motion to receive and file reports.
so moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Correspondence and information. Do you want to do the Blakes?
No, you can do yours first.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize, yeah. A few months ago, the fire department and the township applied for a grant through Lisa McLean's office, community project funding, for 2026. They did apply last year, but were not picked. We worked together and we came up with, a needs assessment in the township, and one of the biggest things was the fire station. The fire station was built in 1987, and then the second building was built in '09. It was never really built for staffing, except no more than 2 people. Obviously, the department has grown significantly. And at the same time, vehicles have grown significantly. So there's a pretty significant issue with the building and staffing people and then finding a way to fund it. We did a study 2 years ago that shows kind of a needs assessment and what we could do with the building. This year we applied for a grant through Lisa McLean's office, and we were notified a couple days ago that we were actually picked one of 15 projects for $2.5 million for renovation of the station. It's not a done deal, so what it is now, it goes under appropriation and the budget needs to be passed. Full disclosures, last year's none of it went through, but that was a kind of a one-time thing. This year we're kind of hopeful and optimistic that'll go through. I want to thank Captain Kuhn and Chief Kohut and Treasurer Job for this whole process going through. We're hopeful, we'll stay on it. We met with the committee again just to see where we're at and what we're going to do with this project. We're very, very hopeful and very, very grateful to Lisa McLean's office for this.
Yep.
On to
Blake's. The Blake's tax appeal issue has been closed. I got an email last year from Andrew indicating that they would like to reimburse us for reasonable attorney fees. Actually, they reimbursed us for all of our attorney fees, $5,740. I just would like to thank them for keeping their promise and reimbursing the township.
unfinished business, there's nothing. On to new business. Armada Township Utility Task Force Task Vehicle Ordinance 2025-01. What's in front of you today is kind of a document that's been worked over for the last several months. One of the things that I've, throughout the last several months and years we've been talked about is potentially having ORV ordinances where you could have, if you had a side-by-side and you want to go up the street to see your friend, right now that's illegal. You're not allowed to drive on any roads with a side-by-side. This gives the ability to just kind of tool around town and see things. We put very strict parameters in it, what it can be. It has to be a UTV. There's a strict speed limit on it, and it is consistent with the law, MCL law that provides us for that. Just have some conversation about it.
MCL 324
Yeah,
dot 81131.
Certainly last meeting, I spoke at length, and I apologize if I speak at length again today. One question I had was, the ordinance says a person shall not operate a UTV that is registered as a motor vehicle and is either more than 60 inches wide or is less than 4 wheels. So if it's registered as a motor vehicle, can the township still make it illegal to drive on a county road?
If it's registered as a motor vehicle, it's street legal and go on any road it darn well pleases.
Yeah, I guess I didn't.
You don't want it riding on the shoulder of the road.
Right.
So this ordinance, the way it's worded, maybe is unnecessary, that it says that. It says a person shall not operate it if it's registered as a motor vehicle. So that may need to be corrected. That was kind of a side note because I understand the intent of this ordinance, and I appreciate the intentional language setting a maximum speed limit and attempting to restrict the size of the vehicle to prohibit, I would say, vehicles that I think everybody would agree are generally louder and faster and not consistent with what we'd like to see in the township. That being said, at least on my road, the vehicles that do come by, to me, they're still loud. I know it's illegal currently, and a lot of vehicles that come in my house probably know that it's illegal. They may not. There's people that I know that have been pulled over in other counties saying, I didn't know it was even illegal to ride on the road. So there's the chance of that. But my assumption is that most know that it's illegal and just aren't too worried about getting pulled over. And my concern is by having an ordinance, even with these restrictions, that it would encourage more vehicles that that I'm going to make an assumption are probably going to go faster than this set speed limit, which is 25. And it's going to be very hard to enforce. So we're opening the door. Again, when I see more vehicles, a big concern of mine, and actually Steve referenced it last meeting, was I call them road rallies, I guess, where they do it's maybe a charity ride, but they're 30, 40, 50 vehicles driving down a road to a destination. They go from place to place. I would suspect that the vast majority of our residents would not want to see that as long procession. It's different if it's one or two, that long procession. So my concern is that this ordinance would allow that, because now the organizers would say they're allowed in Armada as long as you don't see a cop. I don't really care how fast you are. That may be the case. I'm putting words in somebody's mouth, but and then again, the enforcement. I find it hard, even if there's a dollar amount in here. I suspect, at least at this time, if we're not paying the county, the sheriff's office to come out here and do any enforcement, it's probably not, $500 probably isn't enough for them to dedicate a car out here to write potentially one ticket if they happen to catch a vehicle that's speeding. So to me, again, I said this at length last meeting, but this is my opinion, is that our actions, this is strictly for recreation, because if you have a farm vehicle that only goes 25, you're allowed to drive it on the road with a slow-moving vehicle plate already. So this is solely, for recreation, and we're kind of because of their noise in particular for me, and safety for people who use the roads. I think it's not a benefit for most of our residents, and I'm just concerned at what's going to happen out of this.
To add to Jim, what you're saying, the farm vehicle, it's been my experience that in the past before, if you didn't have something to an officer that looked, and I'm using my air quotations, as a farm vehicle, that wasn't like a John Deere Gator, which is a name brand, but it's a specific brand. If it didn't look like that, or a Kubota, small side-by-side, the officer would say, sorry, you know, you can't go slap on a slow-moving sign to a, you know, a Polaris Ranger, because they would say, sorry, I don't feel that
And they
is,
go, but do they go faster than 25?
yeah,
So that
Yep.
would be why it would be.
those units do, but
different.
I'm just saying from past experiences that's, you know, the officer looked at by saying, well, I'm not accepting that you put on a slow-moving sign to a vehicle that can go over 25, because they didn't feel that they didn't qualify to be a farm vehicle. That's part of the reason that's hoping taken away from that. I can also tell you that I've been involved with, and this is not designed to make it so that rallies, okay, but I have been involved with some of those, and there's a meeting that has been at every single one of them, and the benefit is far greater for what they're getting out of that than losing that privilege. You know, and what I mean by that is that meeting has always been right up front. Please obey, do what you're supposed to do, follow the rules the way that we're supposed to, so that we can continue to keep continuing to have these events like this, because they haven't been taken away, because people have followed them, because like I said, the reward for what they've fundraised for them, has really gone towards the community of who they've tried to use that for. So, but I see your points, you know, with some people saying it, but just so that you understand some of the
Sure,
reasons that it would help.
And that's valid. I mean, I think the road I live on may be more of a target or more enticing than other roads, just because, you know, the length of the road and stops and whatnot. You know, but I obviously hear them go by at night. They're particularly loud, so the ordinance doesn't reference any time of day, and it probably shouldn't, but because that's especially hard to enforce. But again, noise at night, even if they're going slow, you can clearly hear them, and then and that's just my concern. So
I do want to address a couple things. One of the issues that I agree with you totally is the concern is the noise. So we limited to where other communities are allowing ATVs, the four-wheelers. Those are the ones that are usually driven a little more aggressively and a little louder. We restricted that. And also dirt bikes. We restricted this to side-by-side vehicles, and I totally, you know, I respect where you're coming from. I did meet with Sheriff Wickersham on Monday and told him about the ordinance. One of the things he was eager to see is that there actually is a structure in place that if people violate this, there's a fee. And 50% of that fee goes to the sheriff department for training and patrolling, and 50% of it goes to the county roads to maintain those roads we're arriving on. So there is a funding mechanism to kind of offset some of the, you know, the issues we may have. I spoke with the supervisor from Lennox Township today. I've spoken to him many times over this, but I called him today just to reassure. I go, it's been in place for a year. Has there been any complaints? And he states there hasn't been a single complaint. I don't know what that means, but he says it hasn't been an issue. They haven't been a single complaint, and overwhelmingly they've been getting a lot of support for it. The other thing is I have spoke with the supervisors east and west of us, and once this is passed, they're going to be looking at it as well. They both asked for copies of our ordinance.
So what,
Go ahead.
sorry, what happens, currently it is illegal. What happens if somebody gets pulled over currently? Do you know?
Currently,
Yeah.
they can be issued a ticket.
And do you know how much that ticket is? And
Oh, yeah, grab the microphone.
Sorry. They can be issued a ticket. That's at the discretion of the officer that pulls them over, and the amount of the fine is up to the judge.
But
keep in-
doesn't the ordinance give them the ability to, like, we have an ordinance in place, if it's violated, now they have some teeth to issue that ticket.
Well, no, this would be a different ticket. Right now, it's
Right.
illegal, period.
Right.
This says if you violate this
This
ordinance, then
yes.
50% of that fee goes to the county and 50% goes to the sheriff's department. So that incentivizes the sheriff's deputies to kind of keep their eyes open and pulls people over to make sure they follow the ordinance.
is the,
And if there's an issue with noise or traffic or a lot of complaints because of the ordinance being in place, this board can certainly repeal that ordinance at any time.
Okay,
So if it becomes an issue, once it's in place, if it becomes an issue, you can repeal it.
okay.
I would suspect that as this goes forward, since you talked to the sheriff, that they're probably gonna maybe have some more presence out here that we're not gonna necessarily pay for them to be out here. They're gonna be out here on their own, knowing that they've got something new. I've been involved with them up north several times. I'll be openly admitting, I thought I was far enough over on the shoulder of the road. Officer didn't think I was, pulled me over. It was a $275 ticket for not being far enough over, even though I thought that I was. There's areas where people know that, hey, you need to really if it says 25, you need to do 25 because they issue tickets and people know it. So I think it's just something that's, it's new, but once it gets going and people start this, if they start knowing that, talking to their friend that, hey, I was pulled over because I was doing 5 over. You were doing 5 over. It's no different than in a normal vehicle. You're taking a chance of doing it, whether we give you permission
For
to,
sure, yeah.
or not. That's why the chief, the village police said the same thing. He goes, we're gonna let them come into town. If they decide they wanna try to do a donut in the middle of town, they're gonna be treated just like a normal, vehicle would. If they're drunk and they're driving it, they're gonna get a drunk driving ticket, inside there. We're not gonna treat them and slap their hands saying, oh, you were, on a side-by-side. They're gonna get treated to the same exact, laws as a regular vehicle in the village. So I think that they'll be out policing it.
And if they're doing donuts, if they're driving recklessly, that's a whole different ballgame.
Yep.
That goes far beyond violating this ordinance.
I'm just
Reckless
afraid.
driving, you're looking at a misdemeanor, 90 days, losing your license. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I guess, I'm just afraid about the ordinance or enforcement, I mean, that, they're doing donuts, but they're long gone before anybody, shows up. And I wanna be clear, half the people that I see, granted they're currently operating illegally, they are as respectful as they can be. They're not driving fast, they're just out enjoying the evening, and I think that's the intention of it. Of course, I'm looking at the, I'm looking at the extreme end, and where I see they're loud, they got loud tires, they got lights, they got a radio blaring because you can't hear the radio because the engine's loud and the tires are loud. So my concern is having a lot of that. And if this ordinance is enforced and it's followed, certainly time will tell. And but again, noise doesn't stop at the edge of the road. It's as far as being respectful to the properties you're passing. That's important to me. So
There's 4 changes that need to be made, that we have to amend. On page 3, B, it says a person shall not operate a UTV that is registered as a motor vehicle and is either more than 60 inches, it should be 72.
why does it need to be
error.
changed?
That was my error because I used,
Why can't it be
language
60?
and I put that, because that's how big they are. That's how wide they are.
I mean, I've measured
Like,
a
we
gator,
actually had
it
to-
goes 45 and
You
it
can
was
measure.
60.
Mine is factory. I haven't modified it at all, and it's 72 inches wide.
Mine's 65.
And it isn't because of us. I would say that we have probably 2 of the most common
Yeah, mine just.
units that are out there. It's not like we're just for our purpose, but it's the mass. If you got into
I saw
a,
that 60, and I was like, okay, that keeps it to the vehicles that,
Well, once you get over 72, that's where you start getting the dune buggies and the ones that are obnoxious, the
which are
Volkswagen
potentially
motor.
road legal,
What's that?
which are potentially road legal, right?
No, but once they get bigger than that, that's where you lose them.
so they have units, Jim, that if you're, just to make you familiar, when you get into the 60, they have trail systems. And not that are here, but the trail systems up north, when you get into a 60, that's more of a very narrow, like 2 people are, and they do make them, but they're very narrow.
That's the
Your-
ones I'm
your-
familiar with.
Your typical Polaris Ranger, for example, is what Chris has got, size-wise, that gives you the 65, and I have more of the Sport that gives you the 72, just based upon that. But our 2 machines hit probably 90 to 95% of what people have that are out there.
Yeah, the 60
This
was
would,
a mistake by me when I put that in there.
Well, as somebody who was concerned to begin with, that this change isn't helping me.
All right, so we got the 72 inches wide, or has less than 4 wheels on any road within the township.
It was my
Cross
mistake.
out
There's no
township.
township roads.
Mary, hang on 1 minute though. The statute limits it to 65 inches wide. So we can
Statute
go,
does?
yeah,
Okay,
we can't go 72, we can say 65.
change that to 65.
There you go.
All right, so 65 inches wide or has less than 4 wheels on any road within the township, crossing off township. Section 6, no person under 16 years of age may operate a UTV on a road within the township unless we're crossing off road.
We have no township roads out.
And then also,
What's in the border though? You think it needs to be removed?
page 4, under 7, section 7, C2, 50% to the Macomb County Department of Roads, not Public Works Department.
That one still gets me every time. They're always gonna be in.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number R2025-1, Armada Township Utility Task Vehicle Ordinance, as amended, and to publish notice of adoption with summary accordingly.
I'll support.
And this is for the amendment. Correct.
It's adopted
Okay.
with the amendments.
Adopted with the amendments.
Yes,
Okay.
I said as amended.
Gotcha.
Nickel,
Yes.
Swanky, yes. Joe,
Yes.
Getzinger,
No.
Kratky.
Yes. Next, we go to Single Hauler Waste Committee. It's been long discussed to try to put together a committee to go to a single hauler. Right now, there's 4 to 5 different companies that go up and down the roads on 4 to 5 different days. Everybody has to negotiate their old deal with the company. So there's wear and tear on the roads, everybody's negotiating it. And I spoke with the village and they have the same concerns. We spoke with them, actually went to a meeting Monday night, and we were gonna work together to come up with a single waste hauler for the village and the township. With the sole goal is to lower the cost for the residents. For the village, it will also give the option of yard waste, which they currently don't have. So combining that, so instead of one-on-one, there's 1,900 people that we're negotiating for. We'll have one way of collecting the money and paying for it, and what's very important is no one is mandated to do it. It's optional. We're not forcing anybody to do it. It's not gonna be something that's be leveling your taxes. We're just doing the negotiation power for everybody. This will reduce wear and tear on the roads. There'll be one day a week where there's trash carts out, not 3 or 4 or 5 different days because there's different companies.
I said, just to be clear, so tonight we're just voting on
Just on that.
creating a committee,
Yes.
but so the residents are clear, your current intended direction is what you had just specified as far as
Correct.
not requiring. So
Yes.
obviously that'll all get flushed out. And one clarification, you said it would not be paid through tax bills?
It will not be assessed to your taxes.
If you
It will
don't-
be,
if you don't.
it'll be your decision if you wanna opt in. We're not mandating it. We're not gonna do an SAD where everybody has to be in and pay it in your taxes.
Gotcha.
It'll still be an optional thing, but we're gonna negotiate with one company to provide the service to the entire township and the village. Other things that'll save on is the transfer site. We'll be able to lump that into one great big thing. That's almost $80,000 a year right now. We're looking to get some relief with that. The dumpsters that are municipal ones within the township and the village, same thing. We'll be able to negotiate that into it. And like I said, so if one individual has a problem, they're gonna call, company X. Well, now you're just one individual. Now, when you speak, you're speaking with the whole entire township. So they're servicing the whole township, not just one home now, so it also gives that ability. I did, like I said, I met with the village. I went to the meeting Monday night. They appointed 2 people to the committee, and what I'm asking tonight is to appoint 2 township people to the committee. We will meet, do the research, present it to each elected officials. There will be hearings on it before we do anything. It will go out for an RFP, so there's a bid done, and bring it back for a vote.
I'll make that motion to appoint Treasurer Joe, Supervisor Kratky, Village President Dave Conan, and Village Clerk Michelle Poulos to the committee.
I'm gonna amend that. Dave said no, he's putting, it's Joe and Michelle.
Oh, Joe Adair, all right. I'll amend that to reflect Joe Adair.
I'll second that. So obviously we went through this not that long ago, and for a variety of reasons, it didn't work out. We found at that time that it wasn't something we could pursue. Doesn't matter why, but I'm excited that we're bringing this up again. Obviously, the big goal, like the supervisor said, was cost. So hopefully through this process, we can find a way to save the residents money on trash. So.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Armada Township, policy for electronic transactions and funds.
The electronic transaction policy was written in 2016, so it needed updating. We needed to add a few more electronic transfer vendors, which will be T-Mobile, Nationwide 457B, MERS, those are the retirement accounts for the fire department, Health Lines medical insurance for the fire department, Humana dental insurance for the fire department, Nationwide PEHP, that's a post-employment health plan for the fire department, Aflac additional employee purchase medical coverage for the fire department, the Hartford disability insurance for the fire department, IAFF local 5053 union dues, and that's for the fire department. It's just easier for these to have electronic transactions. If I send checks, sometimes they don't get the checks.
So all these are currently sent with checks? Is that how it's handled now?
That's-
Obviously?
Well, I started doing them electronically when I had problems, so that's why I
I gotcha.
went back and looked at the policy and needed to update the policy.
Understood.
So I'll make the motion to update, to adopt the policy as presented.
I'll second that.
Nickel?
Yes.
Swank, yes. Getzinger?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Archie?
Yes.
And then with that, I drafted a resolution to authorize electronic transactions. And again, this was done in 2016, so this resolution replaces Resolution 201604 that was adopted on June 22nd, 2016. I'll make the motion to adopt the resolution as presented.
I'll second.
Swank, yes. Nickel?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Getzinger?
Yes.
Archie?
Yes. Next is Michigan Township Association annual dues.
I'll make a motion to approve $7,318 for annual dues from July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026, and $219.54 for legal defense fund contribution for a total of $7,537.54.
I'll second that. We have been going to trainings. I plan on going on more trainings this year, treasurer's trainings, and Chris has been on some trainings to help with that, and it's been very good to know, very helpful.
And
So,
they have been a great resource. I've been reaching out to them, and this is a budgeted item.
Yes. Joe?
yes.
Nickel?
Yes.
Swank, yes. Getzinger?
Yes.
Archie?
Yes. So we go to G. 16960 Armada Center Road, violation of Armada Township blight ordinance. When I took office, this was an ongoing thing the previous administration was also dealing with. There's a gentleman that has been continuously getting more and more things on his property. We've made multiple attempts to try to get him to relieve that. It's been very difficult to get with him, but again, it's been ongoing. We followed all the rules, and we got to the point now where it's just not getting taken care of. So the next thing is to take it to court. Full disclosure, he did come to my office a couple weeks ago, or last week, and spoke with me. He understands he's got issues, and I told him, I said, this is the point we're at now. And I made it very clear to him, just because we make this motion to go to court doesn't mean at any given time, he gets his property cleaned up before he court, he's in compliance, and the complete thing will be dropped, up until the date that we're, required to clean it up. He encouraged me that he would, get working on that in the time he was allotted. Best case scenario, how long until that would, timeline?
You're looking at 60 to 90 days.
So, and I told him 60 days, and he says, I'll have it cleaned up, but the ball's already moving. And I've asked multiple times, and it just, at any given point, he cleans it up, the entire thing will be dropped. But I would like a motion to move this to the next.
I'll make that motion to have the attorney take to circuit court for action.
I'll second. Obviously, I appreciate the effort that you make, code enforcer makes, to resolve any issues we have before it gets to this point. So sometimes we unfortunately get here.
Nickel?
Yes.
Swank, yes. Joe?
Yes.
Getzinger?
Yes.
Archie?
Yes. Next, which is added to the agenda tonight, is Frontier Farms Market rezoning. Frontier Farms was purchased on an auction a year ago or so, and when they purchased that, the previous owners established a commercial bakery on the property without the township's knowledge. Again, when we took office here, this was something the previous administration was dealing with. And we met with the owners of the property and told them, the two options you have is, because it violates the agricultural purpose of it, your two options are either you need to shut down or you need to come to the planning commission and find a way to operate it, and one would be changing that area to B1. They have been very forthcoming. Everything we asked them, they've done. They've come to meetings, they've asked phone calls to sit with us, to sit with the planning department and the planner, because they want to comply. The planning commission did meet, and they approved it pending township approval.
I'll make a motion to approve rezoning for 69475 Romeo Plank, parcel ID 1302314000035, as recommended by the planning commission from R1 to B1 for the 0.9 acre parcel proposed as it meets the standards in section 19.06 of the Armada Township zoning ordinance number 114.
And for discussion, it's still,
Is
so
there a
just
second?
because they're approved. I'm sorry?
Is there a second?
I'm sorry,
No.
apologize.
Wait a minute, second.
Second.
Who wants to second it?
Second.
Sorry, go ahead.
So just so we're clear, there's still a lot of steps, just because that it's accepted, there's still a lot of process they have to go through to find out parking, to get a C of O, make sure the building's in compliance. So there's a lot of steps that need to go through after this.
Steve, do you have any, as our planning guy? I would-
Steve?
I apologize, I was not here. I was out of town that night, but I did watch the meeting, the full meeting. I've been involved with it. There were two motions that were made. The first one failed, the second one carried, which is what brought it here. I will tell you that I would have been a part of the first motion that failed because there was some concerns. One of the concerns that I had with it is that, just like it's in the minutes here for the planning, was that given it this rezoning, you've got an existing building that now becomes non-conforming. It's the new practice, if I'm not mistaken, that most townships try to get away from non-conforming issues, that they don't want to have those in their townships. They're trying to get away from them. Each opportunity that they can chew away at them, that they want to try to not have them in their zoning districts. It's not a small distance. It's well over, I think, 7 feet that would be to the property line. It was supposed to be 15 feet from the side lot line. They also had concerns about the size of the lot and what it was going to use, because they're still going to be using adjacent property or adjacent property to park on or to use. I realize that what supervisor says that there's still some hurdles for them to go through. I just think that for me personally, that with them bringing it here and getting a special land use, that is getting, or I'm sorry, the rezoning, you're changing it before they've got a lot of other items that are in place before they get to that point.
So this lot, if it's rezoned, will be non-conforming, and they have no, at least with the proposed use, have no current ability to become a conforming lot, other than with variances, you're saying?
Unless, and maybe Chris can answer this for us, if they can go to the ZBA to try to do anything about that building with the setbacks,
Well, it'd be a variance, isn't
a
it?
They
variance.
could go to ZBA for a setback variance, yes.
But as far as its parking, it doesn't even have enough parking.
That would be the next phase.
Okay.
What this meeting for the planning was strictly just to get to their, to rezone it. That's all that the discussion was. They tried to have some discussion about further steps, and that the planner had just, requested that we tried to just stay with what, is here in front of us, and it was strictly just the rezoning that they were talking about. So Chris, supervisor, is correct that there's still, if this was approved, there still is a lot of other items that would have to be set forth. I'm just expressing
Yeah.
how I felt, with not being there.
It's
That's
backwards, is what you're saying. That
Well, so
usually you
like
get
the-
rezoning and then
The
they,
storage facility, same thing, they rezoned it, but then they had to go through all the hurdles.
Right.
the storage facility.
They
The
still have
storage
to comply
facility
with
Center
is
road.
the center.
They still have to comply with their zoning ordinance, yes.
Yeah, so they got through that. That just opened the gate to the real work then.
Can our rezoning be contingent on anything, on the, or is it kind of not work that way?
Contingent on what?
Well, I mean, that they can meet,
No,
so we're making some assumptions.
nope, because the
Okay.
rezoning is just saying what uses can be on the site, consistent with the zoning district. If the applicant had come forward with, say, a conditional rezoning, then you could do that, but the conditional rezoning is completely up to the applicant. It's not something the township board can ask for, it's something that has to be offered by the applicant. So this is just for the zoning district the property's gonna be located in. And they can, if it's rezoned, they can use any permitted use or any special land use that's within that district.
That's within the B, so B,
Yeah.
if this were to be approved tonight, whatever's allowable in B one would be allowed, doesn't mean that they can put it under, because now they have to then go for site plan approval. You know, they have to go through all those processes here. Again, it's just, to me, it was just, I felt personally that it was
Forced into it because,
a little bit early, because you're still utilizing properties next door to supplement and to work onto this particular piece of property without using the rest of them. Say if you would have ran all of their properties, maybe to try to, you know, to change that, to me, that would have been different. Instead, this was just one little sliver that they're wanting to take out of a larger chunk that they have to rezone that.
so it's close to the corner.
It is it's one, you have Sunoco on the corner,
Yeah.
and then you have one full lot in
A
between.
vacant parcel.
And then you
Yeah,
go
so as
over
far
to,
as being far from another B1, it's not.
It's right down the street.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
For-
Would that
for that
technically be spot
case,
zoning?
I would say,
Spot zoning is one of those terms that the judges will say, we know it when we see it. So forget about whether or not it's spot zoning. What you're most concerned about is whether or not it's consistent with the surrounding uses, whether or not it's consistent with your master plan, and whether or not it's consistent with the adjacent zoning districts.
I agree with trustee Nickel and his comment that if we approve it, we already know that the parking is a big one, so it's not even self-contained site. What if they sold this, now they're dependent on, adjacent property, you know, how,
That's
so I,
gonna be, that's a site plan issue though.
So,
That's a
yeah,
site
so
plan
we
issue.
really can't even, all we are here for is for the rezoning,
Mhm.
and I've got concerns on rezoning a non-conforming building.
if I may, just briefly, just so the first motion that failed, there were members of the planning commission that expressed concern over the size of the proposed lot that is being rezoned, parking issues, and the non-conforming building. Motion to postpone pending additional information for on-site utilities and parking calculations for site informational requirements. It was a 4-2. Motion failed. The second motion was made to recommend the township board for rezoning from R1 to B1 because it meets the rezoning standards in section 19.06. And it was 4-2, so it was flip-flopped. It still would have potentially failed the first one because if me being there, it would have been a 4-3 versus a 4-2, potentially, but I can't say that. Maybe somebody's opinion would have been changed for not being there.
So is the concern what's used from or the actual non-compliance?
So I have, the non-compliance is probably the larger issue than it is about the use. I mean, if they can't make it fit on the property based upon what they want to do there with their site plan, with water retention, if they're gonna go B1, they're gonna have to more than likely probably pave their parking. They're gonna have to have landscape. I mean, they're turning it from residential to commercial, so they're gonna have to follow a lot of different standards that are gonna be.
Which would all be the next phase.
It would be,
Yeah.
that would be in the next phase, that they're gonna have to make that all fit on there. But I would say my particular hangup, the larger one would be the non-conforming building that you now have on the property.
I agree. I guess that's why I was saying I feel almost forced into it, because somebody is trying to make a site fit because it was not done properly to begin with, and now we're the ones, in a sense, being the bad guys if we say no, but the building, it's too close to the other building, so you can't get your setbacks. Well, no matter where they put that property line, one of the parcels is non-conforming.
And I'll remind you, I think that lot before the auction was much larger, you know, with Van Hoody's farm, it was
Yeah.
all of the, I think there was 3 lots, and I think all of those were one big lot until they were split.
So there have been other split. This picture, the image that we have, I didn't look at a recent image. This shows one big parcel with all the buildings on it. There may be other parcels that aren't, that were part of the original sale. I guess it's irrelevant, ours just was,
So the way that you would see it is that the building to the south, the furthest southern building would be on the one lot, and I believe
which is
The
the one,
farm,
the
yeah.
subject part.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
And the other thing, at the planning commission, we've been trying to get away from contingent, using that word. Just, I mean, it's a very, it seems like it's been used an awful lot prior to this new board that's been here, and the way that the planning commission had stuff, they were trying to get, we've all agreed that we're trying to get away from contingencies, because it just was one contingent after another, and trying to, put the pieces back together to the puzzle to figure out where are we at with this.
Yeah.
So we were trying to really clean things up so that they were much more clear and directive to the applicant to know where that they're going with it, so that they weren't, I would say, at a stalemate trying to figure out what they were doing, their next step.
Is it, detrimental is probably the wrong word, but if it stayed one parcel, or there was a different split and encompassed more of the property to meet setbacks requirements, and it changed to a B1, is that worse for the township as far as losing an ag parcel, that's currently as a farm? Does that encourage that to become business quicker versus as this farm stand that it is now, if we force them to come back with a different proposal in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, at some point, they're gonna have to, by giving it, I think it was like .9, I think it's under an
0.9
acre.
Yeah.
It, again, we're talking, what ifs, with what they can do on there. B1 allows a certain amount of items that can be on that property. There's a lot of other variables that are gonna come into play that they're gonna have to figure out how, if this gets approved tonight, how they can make that, fit on it. That's not our problem, to take care of that issue for them. They're gonna have to figure out the parking, they're gonna have to figure out the water retention, they're gonna have to look at entrance coming in there, because right now, I don't think there's an entrance to come onto there, so they'd have to, come up with that. So there's a lot of variables that they would. I'm not saying that they can't. It was just my concern about the non-conforming building that you've got on that property, that they haven't even, say, attempted to go to the ZBA to try to see if they could get that. It may become an issue down the road
So
for the
yes,
building department. I don't know.
what happens if we approve the B1, but then they go to ZBA and the ZBA denies the variance?
What do you mean? What
Like if
happens?
they, because
So we approve this, they don't need to go to ZBA,
it doesn't
correct?
need to go to ZBA for a building variance
For the setback.
if we approved it as B1, the side setback that's non-conforming?
Well, if it's non-conforming, no, then they can stay. If there's a building there now, they do not have to.
Essentially grandfathered in.
Well, they do not have to go,
Non-conforming.
yeah, it's non-conforming, which means they do not have to go
Okay.
ask for setbacks.
Gotcha.
But if they're gonna put something else on the property, then yes, they would have to
Understood.
go for setbacks.
They could not add on to the building
Yeah.
because now they're not meeting. They can't come back and say, well, we'd like to add on 10 more feet to the building in the other direction, because their setback doesn't allow them to add on, because they're not conforming, they don't meet to that. So they would be essentially constrained to that size of building that's on their property right now, correct?
And if it's a non-conforming use, they can't enlarge a non-conforming use, unless your ordinance provides for it, which I
So
don't know.
just want to get my 2 cents on it. One of the things is, we want businesses brought in, but we also have a very particular way we want them and what we want. And one unique thing is it's a commercial kitchen, it's gonna be a commercial bakery, and I just think it'll add to the township. I absolutely appreciate everybody's concerns, but when we're trying to bring businesses in, we're kind of limited where and what we can do, and this is a unique situation where it's already there, it's already operating, and it would be a benefit to the community.
I'm not saying that it probably can't work for them, that's their,
And a lot of my
The-
concerns are
yeah.
things they have the next step.
I think
But
that.
then what if that next step, they got denied? Then we've done this and now we've got a
B1
a B1 with nothing there. What could I do that would require one parking spot? I don't know, I think,
Well, would it
I'm
benefit
just
us, would it benefit us to maybe go back to the business and see if there are contingencies, so it's specific what they can do? No?
No. If it's gonna be conditional rezoning, it's completely up to the
Oh,
applicant
gotcha.
to offer the
Mhm.
conditions. And if the applicant's here, you can ask them if they would like to speak.
I don't think anybody's here.
And if, what you can do is take your concerns to the applicant and let them know what your concerns are.
So
and then it's
potentially,
up to
could we still
them.
table this then?
Absolutely. You can let
Okay.
them know what your concerns are, and it's up to them to decide if they wanna address them that way. But you absolutely cannot ask them to put
Right,
forth any
to-
conditions. You can just let them know what your concerns are, and it's up to them to address
sure.
them
Right.
in whichever means they see fit. But I definitely think if they're not able to be here right now today, with the concerns you've got, I would recommend tabling it and giving them an opportunity to address your concerns.
do we table or do we postpone?
Semantics.
Yeah.
Thank
Makes
you.
no
You
difference to
postpone
me
a discussion and table a
whatsoever.
motion.
I
Thank you
would
very
recommend,
much.
if you're going to table or postpone it, that you do it to a date certain and let the
Okay.
applicant know.
Okay,
All right, I made the motion, Chris seconded. Let's take this roll and then go from there.
okay.
Joe,
No,
Nickel,
No.
Swike, yes. Getzinger,
No.
Cratchit.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to table until the next regular board meeting.
I will second that.
Can you do that after we voted on it?
Yeah, because
Yeah,
that
motion
motion
failed, this is a
failed.
new motion.
Okay.
What was the first motion? To approve it or
To
deny?
approve it,
To,
to approve it,
Okay.
then
Yeah,
it got
motion failed.
denied.
And that motion failed.
yes.
Yes.
So
So
we're making a
now
motion
you need to
to-
make a motion to table it, or you
She
make
did.
a motion to
I
deny
made
it.
a motion to postpone it until the next regular meeting.
I'll support that.
Actually, Monica did.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Nickel,
Yes.
Cratchit,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Getzinger,
Yes.
Swike.
Next is Romeo Rabbit Rescue Special Land Use. This has gone through the process to the Planning Commission. It's on McFall, the address for it. The individuals purchased the property and want to put a business there where it's going to be doing boarding, rescuing. Get those points correct?
Domestic rabbits.
Yes. Discussion?
You want to make a motion first? Prior to
I don't know if we
discussion?
all have enough information
Okay.
to.
Yeah, there's still a lot of
We
questions
just
we
got
have.
this information last week from Michelle. We don't have, there's a lot to go through.
Yeah, so one of the problems that's inherent is that the planning commission meeting is so close to the board meeting.
Yeah.
And, you know, the other stuff we've been following, but there's a lot of information here that we have still a lot of questions on. And so we could potentially postpone this discussion.
I'll make the motion to postpone
Can we help answer?
until the
anything?
next regular board meeting.
I'll second that.
Nickel?
Oh, were you looking to say?
You
Oh,
have
go
anything
on,
to say?
say.
No, I
They
mean,
said-
if
Did the
we're, if
applicant-
the rest of the board's not
Should we
comfortable
give
having a
The
discussion.
applicant is
No,
offered
you
to
can,
address
you
it.
can,
Do you have
you
one
can,
more
we,
rabbit?
now you can
Okay.
discuss it. Now we can discuss it because the
Yeah,
motion's been
motion's
made.
made, okay.
So
That's
now
why
we'll
would
vote
you
on the
like to have
motion and then
sequence?
we can discuss
Yeah.
it.
I would say it would be appropriate
Yeah.
to allow the,
Mhm.
I just wanted
them
to get
to provide,
that
help
point to
provide
it.
us some understanding, so how about can we have them come up and
Sure.
speak a little bit?
Yeah, I just was waiting for them.
Well, did we vote on that motion?
So there's a motion, but we'll have discussion and we'll allow the applicant to
Right.
speak. If that's acceptable to you.
Oh, no, it was fine. I just wanted to get the
Yeah.
motion done first. That's
Okay.
fine.
Okay, Erin Silas is not here. She is the property owner, and Jessica Hartman, sorry, I'm from Davison, Michigan. And we are board members of Romeo Rabbit Rescue. And so Erin is traveling with her daughter for a college visit in Chicago. And so if you guys have questions, we can answer. Diane and Kelly have been to the property. I have not, because I'm a bit far away. But I support with technology issues and whatnot, and do fostering in my home. So what kind of questions can we answer?
I mean, do you want to just explain kind of briefly the intention of, I know we have information here, but in words may be helpful to kind of what's the intention of this property here?
Well, we have the rabbit rescue currently now.
And where at?
We're currently housing them in K-Pac.
We rent a facility there. And a lot of our, we do have fosters spread around southeast Michigan as well. But we do have a facility that we rent in K-Pac, where we don't have fosters for those rabbits. And they are domestic rabbits, so they're not wild rabbits. We don't do any of that. That is, rehabbers have to take those like through the DNR. We do get calls on that though, but we have to send them out the right way.
Yeah,
So is
we're
your-
not licensed for
Yes.
wildlife.
Is your
rehab.
intention to relocate the entire facility then to this property?
Correct. To
The
move these
K-Pac, yeah.
bunnies from K-Pac to Armada. That way they're on Aaron's property.
And how do you currently generally acquire these rabbits?
Some of them are wild or dumped, and we
Yeah.
just go out and catch them, or people find them at their house because somebody dumped them and they don't wanna keep them, so they come to us, and we get them spayed and neutered, and then we adopt them out.
Animal control contacts us too.
Yes,
Um,
St. Clair and Macomb.
We get involved with them quite a bit with hoarding cases. Sometimes we even have police officers contact us when they have people that they have to take in incarceration. So we have had those as well. It's been an interesting journey. It's not where I thought I would be or thought I would be doing this. Some of the rabbits that we have had some,
Surrenders.
yeah, our owner surrenders. We get the post-Easter dumps, the people that buy their children rabbits for Easter and then they don't know what to do with them. And so they set them free, and we have a capture team that goes out when we get a call saying people find rabbits in parks, and they're clearly domestic because they're black and white. They're not the little brown bunnies. And those come in, they go to vets to get checked and screened for anything, any illnesses, and then get properly medicated, and spayed and neutered. And in one case, patched up from a BB shotgun.
Yes.
That's what we do, and then we network and we work with other rescues to control our numbers and to control numbers across the state. So we network with other rescues to help that population and help educate people, and to kind of network and get them where they need to be.
We are 501c3
Mhm.
registered. We are completely volunteer run. We get donations from people, corporations, businesses. We do a lot of public service, like we do go to Wellbridge in Romeo and visit with the seniors. And it's just amazing to see them. You know, we do tabletop visits, they bring their wheelchairs up and they sit and they visit with the bunnies. And we do a lot of classroom, daycare, educational things for the kids during the summer months,
Libraries,
libraries.
Humane Society.
How many rabbits do you
Schools.
currently have that you're,
We have about 43,
40 housed in K-Pac.
43, I believe.
I was just writing them down.
I was trying to count in my head earlier.
It's right around 40. I have
But
10
they're
at
So
my
you have-
house.
all inside. None of the bunnies are outside.
Yeah, they're all
You
inside.
would not even know that they're there unless we told you.
One of my concerns is also, is they're talking about doing boarding, correct?
Yes.
So you have 43 now, you're allowed a maximum of 50. What impact is that gonna be?
There's a building specified for 9 spots for boarding.
And what,
Because that's an income as well.
I understand that. So one of the concerns is the traffic that's gonna bring in. You potentially have the ability to have 50 cars coming and going every day.
Oh, God, no.
Potential,
No,
Yeah, 50
no, you
kennels.
don't.
Yeah, but,
the potential.
No.
Chris, it states on here
No,
that
it's-
there,
We
that
don't even
there's,
have that many volunteers.
there's no more than 50 rabbits allowed on site.
So if they were all
Exactly.
boarding.
On
so-
site,
But if
you
they're
know,
all boarders,
correct.
you know,
Um,
one of the concerns is the site plan, so
We
whatever
don't
you
board
get stays with that.
Yeah, we don't ever board that many.
Well,
We have 9 we designate 9 spots for boarding. If it's more than that, they
We'll
go to
our
home,
homes.
private homes.
mhm.
does the 501c3 pay rent to, like, if you're gonna move the rabbits to her house?
Oh,
Is there like a
No.
lease
No,
for the building?
no,
So there's no lease agreement.
no. Aaron, who owns the rescue,
Mhm.
owns the land.
but you get
Well, I
donation.
think we will, I'm not sure on that. I don't know if we will, if we lease, if the rescue leases to them. I don't know. That I don't know.
Oh,
I
I've not heard
I
that
can't say
discussed.
that. We haven't agreed, we haven't discussed
We're
that.
leasing right now
We are
in
leasing now.
K-Pac, so.
Yeah.
How many do you have? So we have 43 currently in K-Pac? Okay.
Yeah.
And so you were in K-Pac, you were in Romeo. Why did you leave Romeo? Do you still have that facility in Romeo?
They were renting.
Oh, they were
Yeah,
renting.
it's a-
Okay.
renting in a subdivision.
Okay, so then you went from Romeo to K-Pac?
Yep, to temporarily house them.
Okay.
Was there any locations you guys were at?
Pardon?
Was there any locations you were at or attempting to go to?
Any other locations?
Oh, we leased a basement in Macomb.
We
for-
started out doing that,
Yeah, we started there.
but it was a private
It was a
residence.
private
So then
residence.
she
Yeah.
found K-Pac.
So, from what I'm
We're
hearing,
looking for a permanent home.
Yeah.
That's why she bought the property and
what I'm hearing here is that you have 43 currently. The planning commission proposed 50. That only gives you room for 7 currently
To grow,
to grow.
Right.
Right, we
Couple
have
other-
3 adoptions this weekend. And, you know,
It's-
the numbers do fluctuate.
Yeah.
I understand. It's just that this is what you're telling us that you've got and what you're able to grow. The other concern that I have is that when we get into a special land use, keep in mind that special land use stays permanently with the land, that it's not owner. So what the planning commission proposed here in the minutes was that the planner had a unique, Caitlin said she tried to come up with a way to make this fit, and she used the fur-bearing animals ordinance. So when you look into the section 16.01 for that, it says conditionally upon fur-bearing animals permitted are rabbits or equivalent, and they receive site plan review. So unless, without talking to Michelle, if that was kind of like a contingent, I don't know if that was the way that was written in her minutes there.
Saying
But
it could
what
be-
it says there about
Excuse me.
this, hold on, excuse me for 1 second, let me just,
Yeah.
so what they're saying here is that the special land use is gonna be for this particular property, not just for these applicants. So if they were to sell, this special land use would stay on that property, and that somebody else could come there and have 50 rabbits or equivalent of some
And
type
it
of
could be
animal,
dogs or
okay?
something.
That could be equivalent in size, and it says in size, not, so you can't have a 50-pound dog, but it says equivalent, okay? There's things that we have to look at here, I think, to protect the community, because this is not in a commercial area.
What have
This
the-
is in a residential area.
Yeah, have the neighbors spoken on this? Has anybody?
It could, and fur-bearing animals, and it's, you'd have to look in our ordinance to see what, is listed in there, but it says equivalent is what they put in place there, that stays with this property, that this is essentially turning this into a commercial lot at this house, because they would have, and they've also put in here that they would be going to the ZBA to get a variance for the driveway and the parking lot, because they would be required to have their driveway going to this, have parking spots, as well as it being asphalted. They'd have to have their lights facing down. The neighbors in the area were concerned about the lights. The neighbors were concerned about the traffic. I don't know how if you're receiving animals as well as also boarding, I don't know how you can't have traffic coming into the property. There has to be some way of receiving them.
Do you want me to answer that?
Well, and you can in a second, I'm just,
Okay.
this is based upon what had happened at the planning commission meeting there. So there's a lot of variables that are going into this here, that it is, I think, outside of more than just what's presented here for the rabbit. I think that special land use really needs to be looked at carefully as to what potentially could come further down the road if, heaven forbid, this gets passed and doesn't work for them. They have the opportunity to sell it. Who comes in here now to try to do something in that rural residential area?
Mr. Supervisor, if I may?
Yes.
Special land uses are very specific, and it's up to the planning commission and this board to be
Correct.
specific. The special land use approved is that is presented. A Romeo rabbit rescue, period. They can't expand it, if they sell the property and it's Christine Anderson, I can't change that special land use into a dog rescue. if your motion is specific. So that's the concern with special land uses, the motion must be specific, it can be specific as to hours, it can be specific as to anything that will alleviate adverse circumstances or problems with surrounding properties. Because that's why it's a special land use in the first place, because it has the potential to adversely impact the people around them.
So
Any condition you put on it
Yeah.
to alleviate
So,
those impacts needs
the,
to be
m-
specific.
I don't know, the motion was made by Jabara, seconded by Finn, to recommend approval to the township board for 21850 McFall Road, the raising of fur-bearing animals because it meets the standards of section 16.01, conditionally upon the fur-bearing animals permitted are rabbits or equivalent, and they receive site plan review.
That doesn't mean our motion could be more specific.
Right, your motion, I would highly recommend that your motion be more specific.
So,
Yeah, that's
Correct,
If-
and that's where I don't
right.
think that it
Yeah.
was,
That's not specific.
yeah.
Right, because that does leave the door wide open.
So the motion for tonight, though, is to postpone it.
Until next month.
If we get more information.
Are we prepared to vote on that now, or do we want to have more discussion?
Monica seconded, postpone it till next meeting.
Yep.
Nickel?
yes.
Sweet, yes, gets here?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Gretchen?
Yes.
Thank you.
J is Senior Director Retirement. I apologize, Mayor, I don't have the letter. You chance to have it.
All right, yep. This is from Donna. Dear members of management, for over 6.5 years, it has been a privilege to work as the director of Armada Senior Center. It was filled with some challenges, but mostly a great deal of satisfaction. With that being said, I want to inform you that I will be retiring from the Armada Senior Center as the director at the end of this month. I'd like to thank each of you for everything you've done for me over the years. I'm also grateful for your friendship. Sincerely, Donna Pitts. I'll make a motion to receive Donna's letter of retirement and to thank her for the many years of service.
Second.
Who's that?
Chris seconded it.
Okay.
Sorry. Made you yell
And I
at
do want to personally thank her. You know, she put her heart and soul into that position for years, and I really do appreciate it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next is a committee for senior director replacement. I thought it was important that we kind of bring some people in on this. I spoke with two individuals that regularly attend the senior center and also participate in events, and I thought they should have a weigh-in, and also the treasurer who deals with the money coming in and out, as well as myself. And I would like to, can I make the motion on that?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion, and I have spoke with the two individuals. Let me get my page right. Marcia Hollins, Shar, last name,
Brunswick?
Monica Job and myself to be on the committee, to reach out, put applications out to the interview process and select it to the board at the next meeting.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next is public comments.
Marcia Hollins, 20120 Armada Ridge Road. It's hard for me to understand how you can have agenda items and you let the project, well, the agenda item, it creeps. You guys go way beyond. Mr. Nichols was allowed to present information that was already decided on, but then he presented it here, and he wasn't at the meeting to voice it there, but he brought it here and swayed the committee, the board, to postpone with the information that was for the rescue. The same thing happened. All those questions were answered at the planning committee. I understand that you guys are postponing it, but to me, if you would spend time reading what was provided, you could have made a decision on the special land use instead of postponing it because it wasn't clear. It was very clear. That was you didn't get out of here until 10 o'clock. So I think that you allowed the agenda item to creep and other information to come in, and we don't get things done.
Well, I'll speak to that real quick. One of the issues we have is the meetings on Wednesday. The following day, the minutes get done, and we don't get presented to us by Monday to make a decision on Wednesday. And that is a structural problem we have that we're planning on addressing. potentially moving those planning commissions so we have longer. And in that, there's still questions that pop up, that even the planning commission didn't get addressed. And we didn't vote no, but we want to make a more educated decision.
But the issue was special land use, and the other issue for the, for Frontier was R1 to B1. It wasn't anything that came up in your discussion. It was either to say yes or no, and for you all to allow the project to creep and the scope to be expanded beyond what was on the agenda. It was
Well-
unfair to the,
That's what the board discussion is for.
Yeah.
So everybody comes up with different questions, you're talking, something else comes up, you have more questions.
but those questions were
And,
answered. Go ahead.
no, they were not to the satisfaction, because I watched that planning commission meeting start to finish, and I had a lot of questions.
Was it related to R1B1?
Yeah, it's for that bakery, yes, and I did bring those up. Those were my concerns. So I brought up my concerns. For the rabbit rescue, I've got a lot of concerns on that, and just having them here with the questions, like what happened in Romeo? What happened in K-Pac? There are just things that I'm not comfortable with on either of them. So I think that postponing, having that discussion actually helped a decision in a different way. So that's why I think that just postponing it, give me more information, because what I have,
Okay,
you know,
thank you.
yeah, what the information that I have just would have, whoops, hi Ken.
Any other public comments?
Jeff Miller, 71800 Romeo Plank. You guys are talking about the special land uses that go with the property, and there's no way to take them away. Last month, she said that you could take special land uses away.
Only if we were to rescind it.
Right.
It'd have to be brought back to the to the board to rescind it.
Gotcha. So you are able to take them away?
Yeah, if somebody violated if somebody was allowed to have 2 parties and you constantly kept having 3 parties, 4 parties, then the board would have to come back and have a discussion, vote on it to rescind that special land use.
Gotcha.
Just like the ORV ordinance, we'd have to modify it,
Repeal it.
rescind it.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other public comments? Comments by board member? Trustee, next.
2 items. One, first and foremost, I'd like to thank Captain Kuhn, Fire Chief, and Trustee Job for working on the fire. This is the type of stuff that I think that really makes change. And even if we don't get it, the fact that we got to this point is something very great. I mean, $2.5 million is pretty impressive for a small community like this. We've already received the grant for the new side-by-side that Fire Marshal Cannell got for us for $35,000. Just now $2.5 million proposed that should maybe, go hopefully in our favor. Let's hope that it does. The fact that you guys took the time out to present that to the federal government with the way, no matter where you stand, on either side of the aisle, the way stuff doesn't seem to get done, but yet we got recognized. Hats off to you 3 for, being a part of that. Chief, Supervisor, I know you've been involved with that conversation as well too, so you need to be thanked on that.
He's been on that phone
Yes,
and going down there and meeting with Lisa McLean's office. So
yes.
it's amazing.
Lastly, I'd like to add about what goes on at this table with the board. The Planning Commission is unique because it does do a lot of our work in front of us. However, if it's a special land use or something that requires to come up to here, we're elected by the taxpayers. So we ultimately are the ones that have to respond to the taxpayers and try to protect their interest, whereas the Planning Commission, I'm not taking anything away from them, they're appointed by this board. So the repercussions that they may receive really is not, they're on that Planning Commission. They may make a good decision, they may make a bad decision. When they do certain items, we don't even see it because the way our ordinance is right now, unless it's a special land use, we don't see it there, they approve it and it goes on for site plan, for example. But for special land use, it comes here. And I think the discussion that has to happen here is a little bit more detailed versus what, even though the planning commission may submit it to us for approval, that doesn't always necessarily mean that it's gonna be granted. There may be questions, and I think that the norm used to be just to propose it and send it off, where at least this board has taken the opportunity to try to maybe take one more month to look at this to make a better decision. We could have ultimately decided to not approve it, and that could have been really bad for the applicant. Instead, we took another month to try to resolve it to make it better for everybody.
Well
I
said.
agree, yeah, very well.
Justin gets here?
I do wanna say that I'd be happy if all my concerns for the side-by-side ordinance are proven to be unfounded. So I appreciate you guys listening to my at-length discussion on that. And kinda to reiterate some of what Trustee Nichols said is that, as a board, we're here for a season. We don't know how long we'll be here, and so I hope that the community sees us as making wise decisions or attempting to make wise decisions, and that's why we have the discussion we do and take the time that we need to make those decisions. So, thank you.
Joe?
And summer tax bills will be going out at the end of this month. And tax settlement was a trip. It was an exciting but very interesting time. Third time down to the county was a charm, but I want to thank Mary and Nadine and just the people in the office just really supporting this, because it was a little stressful for a minute there, but it worked out good. And Lori, thank you. And it was just, it's good. So we're excited. We're getting her done. So, thank you guys. And there is an election too. I did want to say. Were you going to say that?
I was gonna say that.
Okay, forget it. I'll let you say that. Go ahead.
August 5th, we have a special school election for Armada area schools. It's a bond issue. There will be no early voting.
Oh, really?
No, it's a special, no. Only
good,
federal
that's
and state
good.
elections
Oh,
are
that's
you
good.
having to do that.
But there's still, you can still
It's
vote
still the
early. It's
same.
the absentee ballot.
The original early.
Yeah, early voting. The old
It's
days.
the old way of early voting.
Yeah, that
I just want to mention the fire department. I think it's important to note that the fire department has a very long history of aggressively seeking federal funding. Federal funding is our money we give to the government that we get back. So it's our money given back in the community, and they have been very aggressive and very successful. I've been in this community in Macomb County for 30 years now in the fire industry, and I have no department has been this successful, ultimately saving the tax dollars money, and I appreciate that for that. Motion to close?
second.
8:23.
That's a